Hello, welcome back. I'm so excited to be here talking with you about another topic related to anxious attachment style. And this topic falls also under the sub umbrella of our relationship to our emotions and the necessity to express our emotions when we are on the path of healing anything within our system. So, what you're here to talk about is anxious attachment style, which is simply a part of your survival response system, more specifically within the attachment system. And if you want to shift it, then ultimately what you are doing is healing it. Sometimes some of the things that get in the way of our healing are being able to let go of some emotions we've been holding on to around our experiences that translated into the anxious attachment. And I feel like that's already sounding a little bit wordy, so let's get to the point. Today I'm talking about anger. Most women that I work with, most women that I know, can access sadness more easily than anger. And that makes sense. It feels safe and it might feel soft. Sometimes anger doesn't feel like that. It's really common that we have a unhealthy relationship to anger, and that can manifest in a few ways. So either you have a story that you're not allowed to be angry because that's bad or scary or it's not allowed, and so we suppress our anger, and that tends to harbor in the body as resentment. Then there's another side of it where we feel like a boiling pot that's about to tip over at any second. The water is always boiling and one thing triggers you and all of a sudden you're lashing out or feeling incredibly mad or incredibly frustrated. And part of you might know, I shouldn't be feeling this worked up about this small thing, but I am and I don't understand. And that can just affect your day to day. Maybe you're working and your computer's being slow and you're feeling super mad, or maybe the food delivery place got it wrong and you're just losing your mind. That's a personal example, by the way. So for me, I held a lot of frustration in my body, and I didn't necessarily feel very disconnected from my anger. I actually felt like I could verbally vocalize when I was mad. Sometimes that would come through yelling, although that is something that I really try and move away from now as an adult with some healthier communication styles. But I felt connected to my fight response. So that's a question I have for you is, do you feel connected to your fight response? Do you feel the fire that can turn on in your body in some situations? The answer might be yes, too much, yes, I do, or no, not at all. Sometimes I hear women say that they are not an angry person, and while that can definitely be true, my next question is, are you not angry, or is your body not capable of being angry? Because what we actually want is a body that's capable of holding and expressing anger in a healthy way. If we can't feel connected to our anger or our fierceness, then there is a chance that our nervous system is in a freeze response when it should be in fight. And depending on where you are in your spiritual journey, inner work journey, you may have heard the term sacred rage. And sacred rage is pointing to the importance of anger. And an example that's often given is the fierce protection that comes through a mother when her child is at risk. So if you've ever seen a situation where maybe the dad even made a poor decision, or the child is at risk in any way, the woman quickly can become quite angry and quite attacking. And that's important. We need that fierceness and that fight to be able to run through our body in the case of when we need to protect our child and also protect ourselves. When we're little, we also don't have the physical strength to protect ourselves, and that is usually where the suppression of anger in the body begins. There might have been a moment in your childhood where you were mad at someone, but because you physically knew you didn't have the strength to fight, it made more sense to fawn, to shut down, or to freeze, or to flight even, so to remove yourself from the situation by walking away or running away, instead of honoring what your body wanted, which was to go into its fight response. It was more safe for you to choose a different way. But then you're starting to learn that the different way is what you should be doing in order to keep yourself safe. So when you become an adult who can communicate better and physically manage situations better, although as a woman, this is continuously a risk because we're generally not as strong as a potential man that might be wanting to hurt us. So we continue to have these reasons not to go into fight. That might also be a story of women who get angry are bitches, or women who get angry are too defensive. So it's another really interesting thing to explore. What we're here to do is explore your relationship to anger through this conversation, okay? So to this point, what I want you to ask yourself is, how do I feel when I see an angry woman? I'm just noticing how that feels. What is your immediate thought? What judgment might come up towards an angry woman? And does that judgment sound like yours? Does it sound like something you've heard come out of your mom's mouth or your dad's mouth? And think, judgment I have about angry women, or a belief I have about angry women is, they need to calm down, or they're going to get in trouble, or they're going to get hurt. I know I have this response in my body whenever I'm watching a video or a movie or something, and there's a woman who starts screaming into a man's face. I think, oh my God, he's gonna hit her. And that's never something I've witnessed. That's never something that's happened to me, luckily. But there's something within my body that's saying, no, you're risking yourself. You have to be careful. Don't do that. Don't yell. Don't get in his face. You're going to get hurt. So even though that isn't even my direct experience, I've had enough evidence of seeing that happen, literally just through movies and TV shows, that my survival response is saying that's not a safe behavior. And a second interesting part of this would be to consider for yourself, how do I feel when I see an angry man? Do you feel like you need to run away? Maybe you feel the opposite. Maybe you feel like you need to solve his problem. Maybe there's part of you that actually wants to approach him and see if you can fix the situation or calm him down. Maybe your belief is that angry men are addicts, or maybe part of your system responds, did I do something wrong? Am I in trouble here? It's incredibly fascinating, the thoughts that we have in our subconscious that are kind of hidden in there, that we don't realize this is how we feel about these topics until we slow down enough to explore it. So when we experience A, the conditioning of being told that we shouldn't express anger, and then B, situation after situation after situation where our boundaries have been crossed, where we've been people pleasing and giving from a place that we don't have capacity for, and our needs aren't being met, and this resentment starts to build, both of these things are storing this energetic response that is anger, this chemical release in the body. And that can manifest as tension in your neck and shoulders, in your hips. It can manifest as a disconnection from your womb space, not feeling connected to your pelvis, your pelvic muscles, your vagina. It can manifest as stomach issues, headaches, and as I said before, this short fuse idea. So with all that being said, my wish for you is for you to start to feel where you're at as far as connection to your anger goes, and then also consider moving it out of your body. Within my community space, I have a training specifically around what it looks like to release anger from your body in a healthy way. Gives 5 different examples because different people have different things that feel natural for them to use. And that community space also has a library of guided practices, some longer form teachings, a section called Pep Talks where I share some other psychology-based trainings, and that's a membership style community. It's $20 a month, making it super, super accessible so that you can just go in there and get access to a practice that goes along with these podcast episodes. So the associated practice for this one has some journal prompts, but it also has these 5 anger exercises. But if you think of a child knows how to move their anger. They fearlessly throw a temper tantrum, or they stomp their feet, or they squeeze their fists. And at some point, we were told we need to grow up and not do that anymore. And that is going to be the point where that energy didn't get to move anymore. And what's super interesting, kind of a side note, is that when that happens to boys and they don't have a place to move that energy, some patterns that people are seeing is that showing up as diagnoses of ADD or ADHD, because all of a sudden now that boy isn't sitting still anymore. And I could see this working exactly the same in women, but these things are sometimes first studied in men than women, but just something to consider about how that shifts how we're able to move our energy. So now the child's been told not to express this way anymore, and now what do? Maybe you still remove yourself from the situation, maybe now you choose crying instead, or maybe you just feel really mad and you feel like you can't tell anyone about it. And this part of you, this inner child within you, now is feeling deeply alone, not connected, not seen, and not validated in her anger. And if this has resonated with you so far, and you can say, yeah, I feel like I have some suppressed anger, then your practice is to validate your anger. You don't need to know what you're mad about. It doesn't matter if you're mad about not getting the birthday party you wanted. If that is the energy that's stored in your body, then that's the energy that wants to move. And in order to move it, what I would suggest is that if you notice it's coming up, that is the time to move it. So go into the School community. I call it School because it's on a platform called School. Learn those 5 exercises, and then when you're feeling connected to this emotion, see how much you can actually move out of your body in order to create space. And once you use one of these practices a few times, you will start to naturally reach for it. This is something that I'm doing often in my adult life because I don't want that anger in my body anymore. It caused so much pain in my right shoulder and so much frustration was held there, and I would much rather let it move through me through these practices than keep stored in my body. And I think I mentioned this in the practice video, but in Eastern medicine, Eastern medicine and Chinese medicine, they speak about anger being stored in the liver. So there's a really interesting connection between having anger issues, let's call them, or suppressed anger, and also liver issues. So if you've already had any experience with your liver, then that might be something to consider. I'm just saying it just in case it connects the dots for anyone. And if we think of anger as fire, we're keeping fire in the body. So of course it's going to cause heat in the body, inflammation in the body. And if you've ever studied your Ayurvedic type and you are a Pitta, this maybe is a topic for a very niche amount of people listening. Pitta is the fire type. So we already naturally have fire in your body. You might already associate yourself as a fiery person. Maybe there's a lot of fire in your astrology chart, however you see it. So if that fire doesn't have a pathway to move out of you, then it's going to, create tension or pressure or stress or inflammation. And I hope that gives you enough reasons to examine your relationship to anger, to start to reconnect with your body, and to learn some ways to move it through you. So thank you for listening. I would love to see you in School. That link will be in the show notes. And until next episode, take care, and sending you lots of love.